We are blessed today to have one of the very best, not only the best in real estate for the last 37 years here in Atlanta, Georgia, but one of the best characters that I've ever met. I've had the privilege of not only working professionally with our guest today, but also breaking bread with him a number of different times as leaders, talking about iron sharpening iron. Jim and I have been friends for a very long period of time. We've been through a lot in business together, but we've also had a great friendship. 37 years, billions of dollars of real estate has been sold and bought underneath Jim's direction. He has managed several thousand agents in his career, and countless homeowners who don't know Jim's name have been served by constituents of Jim in a way that has just simply been better as a result of Jim's involvement. Today, in our continuing effort to offer you insights about how to become your best, we welcome Jim Alexander. Jim, welcome to Professional Best.
Thank you, Pat. Good to see you today.
Yep, good to see you too.
Sure. Thank you for having me out here.
So listen, the audience is always curious about how they can get from where they are to the best version of themselves.
Right.
And we want to do that by interviewing people like yourself who really have become their best. And we both know that there's more left for both of us to do to become our best, but naturally, you've done that in your professional life and in your personal life as well. And so we just wanted to ask you some questions to share some insights with our audience. So let's get started, okay?
Let's go for it. Go.
All right, first question is that there have been voices of influence in my life that have affected me, that essentially created deposits that govern what I do every single day. Who is that voice, or who are the voices that have been in your life along the path that have affected Jim Alexander?
Pat, that's a great question, and there's more than I can count. People that have poured into me from the time I was a kid to even today. The first person that comes to mind is my dad. My dad taught, we had 4 boys in our family. He taught us an incredible work ethic. He went to work every single day, even if he wasn't feeling well. And so one thing about our family is that we know that you show up to work. And so that's the first person. Second person that comes to mind was my first official boss. I was a young teacher at a school. This guy's name was Jack Stanford. And Jack really poured into me about the integrity part of being in business, integrity part of what you do. So he'd be a second one. And the third one that comes to mind immediately is a great man named Nath Thompson. I was a camp counselor for a number of years, and Nath talked about the true gentleman, about what a gentleman looks like, that when you meet someone, you look them in the eye and you shake their hand. So those 3 people just come to mind immediately. Now, since then, there's been numerous other ones. I mean, Harry Norman of Harry Norman Realtors, Ed Isaacson, it was Johnny Isaacson's father. I mean, all those people spent time with me, and I could tell you stories about them, but Pat, there's not enough time today to tell you all those stories.
If you could consolidate down to a word or two what all of them did, because they did it in their own way and in their own circumstance, but what would be a word or two that you would use to kind of identify how each one of them, maybe uniquely, but then in common, what did they contribute?
The one thing they all had in common was great integrity.
Integrity. Yeah.
And because they would tell me, Jimmy, what they used to call me, once you lose your integrity, it's a very slippery slope to get that back. So once it's gone, and we all have got times when we slip and don't always do the right thing, but they had that in common. And the other thing is servant leader, being a servant leader, that you're there to serve others and not for them to serve you. And so those would be the 2 things that I think that I got from every one of these people, including my dad.
Well, like you, I've been around long enough to have had the blessing of knowing Harry Norman and being involved with Harry Norman. Not Ed Isaacson, but his son Johnny. And so we've traveled in obviously a lot of the same circles here in real estate in Atlanta. But I didn't meet your dad, but I almost feel like I know your dad sitting here with you today, because that he's been brought up, he raised a good boy. And all of that all of those folks blessed you by, the integrity, obviously is one of the reasons you have become the influencer in the marketplace that you've become. And past the marketplace, as we were talking a little bit earlier today, it's really much bigger than that from a leadership standpoint. It's really affecting all of the people that are in our life at home and in the workplace. So thanks to you, and thanks to Nate, and thanks to your dad, and thanks to Eddie, and thanks to Harry Norman. all of them. So they taught you that lesson, a special lesson of integrity. Did you get a chance to thank them?
That's if I have a regret, at least for me as a young man, you think that they're going to be around forever. Yeah. And so you don't stop long enough to say, hey, Dad, thanks for that. Or to say, thanks, Nate Thompson, for doing that. And so you don't do that. Now, at my age, you realize that life is a little bit shorter, that you're in the fourth quarter.
We're in the fourth quarter.
Exactly right. And so I regularly take the time to call and say, Pat, thanks so much for being a good friend to me. Thank you for mentoring or pouring into me. Last week, I got a phone call from someone that said, Jim, you're one of my top 10 favorite people I want to call and thank you. So I do more of that this day than ever. But unfortunately, those people are now gone home to be with God, and so I don't get a chance to do that anymore.
Well, the good news is that because you and I believe what we believe and they've gone home, right?
That's true.
I feel like two things. One, your actions every day continue to thank them, because to the extent that they decided you were important to pour into important lessons about how to live the best life.
That's right.
You reflect that every day, which means you reflect them, and that's a certain way of honoring and thanking them. And I know they're blessed by that. And of course, you and I both know that we can get on our knees and we can say thank you, and I'm confident that somehow or another that message is getting home.
Daily.
Yes, exactly. So I wanted you to tell our audience, if you would, a lot of people think when folks like you, you're in a position, the public eye a lot, you speak a lot in front of a lot of people. It looks like it's really easy to be successful when they see someone like yourself. But what you and I both know is true is that we have the same set of challenges that have taken place in our lives,
True.
Pain and adversity. Share a story, if you would, of some adversity that's taken place in your life and how you dealt with that adversity.
Pat, that's a great question. I have an easy answer. So I was at a company and was basically taken out of my position there. And
Me too.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I think the word is called fired. Exactly right. And for the longest time, I was mad at the president of the company because I'm actually the CEO of the company because he did not support me on that. And I was mad at him for years. And finally, when I realized that all that was happening was God was getting me out of there to prepare me for my next position, when I realized that and realized that man had no control over my destiny, all he was an instrument that God was using, because I'm not smart enough sometimes to leave one place, get ready for the next. I probably would have stayed there. So because of that, that is the reason I'm at Keller Williams today. And so the lesson I learned was that often when these things happen, God's preparing us for our next adventure, which has blessed me beyond anything I can believe.
Awesome, awesome. We always tell people here in our program that don't wake up in the morning and punch yourself in the face.
That's true.
If you make poor choices,
that's right. Exactly.
You'll ultimately create your own adversity.
I agree.
But even when you make wise choices, you still could wind up facing things that happen in life. In fact, you will, adversity, and things that are out of your control, like what took place with you and me in my own career. And like you, when I moved quickly to say, God, you're still God and you have rights. And if this is what you think is best, even though I'm not comfortable right now, I'll trust that it's the best outcome. And the same thing happened with me, Jim. You went to Keller Williams and have now created a new legacy for your leadership at Keller Williams. And I've been blessed to do something similar here at Supreme. So thanks for sharing. Our program's about becoming better personally.
Gotcha.
And better professionally. What are you currently working on, Jim Alexander, to get better as we begin 2020? What are you working on personally, and what are you working on professionally with the spirit of getting better?
That's a great question, Pat. And of course, what I want to do right now in my office, the people around me and my family, I want to grow great leaders. Because as a legacy right now that I want to leave on this earth, I want to leave people that have taken their leadership and they take it to the next level. So that probably is my number one thing this year is in my family, in my office, and people that I touch, I want to help them to grow as leaders, because if I do that, it'll change the way they see things. Personally, I'm working on making sure that my yeses are yes and my nos are nos. because I have this ability to think that I can solve everyone's problem and I can make everybody happy. And I've learned that that's not always possible. So I'm working on making sure that when I think no, I usually just say no, and when I think yes, I need to say yes. So I want to make sure that I'm always doing that.
Got it. Those are two great ideas. The leadership, particularly, because to the extent that we can enlighten others about the voice that they have.
True.
When I start hearing about the voices that poured into your life, whether you're a parent or whether you're just a fellow associate at Keller Williams, you have a voice in the lives of other people. Mm-hmm. You have the voice in the lives of your family and your friends. You also have the voice in the life of the customers that we serve every day. And we all can leave something behind for them. And then those deposits, which of course matured based on the folks that deposited in your life, can affect other people's lives, and we can compound our influence that way. So I'll pray for you about your leadership development this year.
But you and I both, we want to not only just talk the talk, we want to walk the walk.
We do, don't we?
Because people are watching us as leaders, and they're saying, oh, you say this.
And then that's a great point, because integrity is about articulating to people what's important and then actually reflecting it yourself, because people will follow integrity. They will, and they will sacrifice for integrity. It's harder to do that just based on circumstances. If someone like yourself's in a position of influence, they may, in fact, get benefits by being in association with you, but the greatest benefit they'll get is really by the life lessons that you can actually teach them. All right, so I have another question in the spirit of personal and professional best. We're just starting the year here, 2020, hard to believe. What are you not working on? Or what weren't you working on in 2019 in your personal or your professional life that you need to be working on?
Well, and I've just started this. And Pat, you always remind me of this, since you're so fit and trim. One of the things that as you get older, I'm putting on extra weight, and so I want to make sure that I'm good mentally, but also good physically, that I take time to exercise every day, that I take time to basically have my quiet time. So I'm working on those things, and I'm not as good as those I need to be. And so learning that you put God, family, then business, you know what I mean? I'm working on that part of it a lot. And am I good at that yet? No, I'm not. Because as I told you, my father taught me a good work ethic.
Yes, so that's what comes natural.
Exactly right. Going to work is easy.
Just get up and go to work,
exactly right. But knowing when to take time to say, okay, I'm going to leave home and go home early so I can go up for a walk or something like that. So I'm working on that.
Well, so thank you for inviting me to be your accountability partner
in
this particular area.
I'll take it. Thank you, Pat.
We'll not tell you all the things that Jim holds me accountable for, but I can assure you I get phone calls on the regular from Jim, and he teases me a lot and prods me a lot about certain things which are important, and they actually are beneficial, because you're one of those people that anytime the phone rings and you're on the other end, or anytime we go to lunch, I always think about, I want to have a good report. I want this person to be proud of me. Not about how much business we're doing, but I just want you to be proud of me. So you have that natural capability of affecting other people in that way. So just know that, and it's a blessing to be your friend, and it's a blessing to be in business with you every day. And in terms of the getting in shape, I'm going to give you the secret.
Tell me.
All right. It doesn't get sold at 1-800 discount. It doesn't come in boxes at your front door. You just take your plate this big and you shrink it down. You eat less and you eat better. You change some of the colors and turn them into greens. And then you just start exercising a little bit more. I did this 7 years ago because I made a major life change about 7 years ago. And now my habits, and you know the drill. I mean, whatever we decide is important, if we focus on, we'll do. And it's usually simpler to get it done than it seems. It's just make it a priority. And we need you to. Because we need you around for a while.
Thank you.
We'd like to go into overtime. So if this is the fourth quarter for Jim Alexander, we'd like to have an overtime game with you so we can keep you around for a while. How about that?
But Pat, there's one more. I found that a lot of people my age, they stop growing. They stop doing new things. They stop looking for new things. They stop reading books. They stop doing all the stuff. And so they sort of stop evolving.
Sure.
So one of my goals also this year is to continue to evolve, to continue to change, to read more, to see what else is out there, and to be willing to think about, well, is that point of view something that I need to be thinking about?
Well, that's
So evolving is also part of my process.
Yeah, you know,
this year.
you've been successful, so the easy thing is to be complacent and stay there. But I think, thank you, because you just re-challenged me this year to think about, on the margin, all the little things I can do to continue to evolve and get better. I've got one final question for
Sure.
you. Okay, so let's assume that there's somebody in the audience that's really important, which be everybody, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And a lot of the folks that are in the audience, they're in Tampa, they're in Orlando, they're in South Florida, they're in Charlotte, they're here in Atlanta, and they're never going to get a chance to talk to you. But here you are today. If you had a piece of advice to give to somebody that was really important, all of the folks in the audience today, about how to become their best in life, and try to make it as simple as possible, but what are the things that you would give in terms of advice so that people could become their personal and their professional best in life?
Wow, that's a great question. For me personally, my relationship with Jesus Christ is number one, because I know that I'm in God's will. So even when tough times come, and I've had some tough times over the past couple of years, you know.
Yep.
So when that tough time comes, your faith in that is what will get you through it. So I would tell you to get your faith in God and spend time doing that. You know what I mean? And so that'd be my first thing. The second thing is surround yourself with people that are better than you. People that do things better than you do it. Surround yourself with people that will challenge you to grow, to go to the next step. Because unfortunately, when we have a thought, we'll often find people that will agree with us, as opposed to finding someone who will say, no, I don't agree with that. So put people in your life that will challenge you as you challenge me regularly, Pat. You're really good at that, Pat. And so put people in front of your life because as someone once said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room.
Find a new room.
Exactly right,
No,
Jeff.
exactly.
So that's it right there, Pat.
No, that's great advice, because there's so many people that are around us that will agree with us about why we're not getting better. And it's not our responsibility. It's someone else has done something to us, the boss that fired you, that the circumstances, the market, whatever. But when you get around certain people, they encourage and inspire and challenge, more importantly, you to take ownership and responsibility for every part of your life. Jim, thanks for your friendship. Thanks for being a real great role model, not only to guys like myself as a leader, but really to the community that you serve every day, not only in real estate, but just in general. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Happy New Year.
Yep, you too.
Yes, sir. Thank you.